Two satellites. Oh, how you catch the light right before my eyes. You captivate my mind. Starlight of my life. We're reflecting light like the sea on a winter night. Oh, honey, we're reflecting light like the sea on a winter night. Two satellites. Ooh.
It's time for bonus features while we're binging the Bible. Jonathan coming to you from my study here at Life Church's Saginaw campus. We jumped into the Exodus narrative yesterday. In the info down below, you can see the links to the entire sermon video, the fill in the notes, the 707 teen devotionals. And right now, I want to share with you a little nugget from Exodus as a bonus feature. This is just some of the content that got cut from Sunday's message. Didn't quite make it in because we only have a little bit of time to cover one big idea. The big idea yesterday from Exodus is that we all have a calling on our lives. And the question is, are we going to embrace that calling? Or like Moses, are we going to have objections that we throw in God's face? So we shared the 5 objections of Moses in yesterday's message. Today, I want to look at a top 10. The 10 plagues from Exodus. So Moses embraces his calling. He goes to the Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go." 10 times he is denied. So 10 times Yahweh will display his power. If you got a Bible, turn to Exodus chapter 7. The Lord Yahweh said to Moses, "See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet." So Moses didn't actually speak to Pharaoh because Moses had a stuttering problem. Instead, the message was relayed from Moses and then through the mouthpiece of Aaron, his brother. "You shall speak all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall tell Pharaoh to let the people of Israel go out of his land. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, Pharaoh will not listen to you. Then I will lay my hand on Egypt and bring my hosts, my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great acts of judgment." So you may be asking yourself, why would God harden Pharaoh's heart? Next verse. "The Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh, when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring out the people of Israel from among them. So twice in that passage, God talks about his hand. He's going to lay his hand on Egypt. He's going to stretch out his hand against Egypt. Other translations talk about the mighty arm of the Lord. But whatever version it is, Yahweh is going to exalt himself above the deities of Egypt. See, ancient Egypt had all these different gods and goddesses that they worshipped, and Yahweh will say, no, they're all fake. They're all a bunch of jokers. I'm the one true living God of the universe, and I'm here to rescue my people from the clutches of Egypt. So you have 10 plagues, because 10 times the Pharaoh says no to the Lord. The first plague, Moses turns the Nile into blood. And this was not just a supernatural occurrence of turning water into blood, but the Nile River was the lifeline. It was the economic artery of ancient Egypt. Think of all the grains and different trades that would flow through the Nile. And the Nile was protected by two Egyptian gods, Apis and Isis. There's also Khnum, the guardian of the Nile. So when Yahweh, through Moses, turns the Nile into blood, Yahweh is exalting himself above the Egyptian superpower economy, against the Egyptian gods. Yahweh is laying claim to being the supreme master. Well, Pharaoh still says no, so we have a second plague, which is frogs. Frogs everywhere. And this is actually an affront to the Egyptian god Heket. Heket was a frog-headed goddess. And so to flaunt frogs and to have them infiltrate along with the Nile turning to blood was Yahweh exalting himself above the Egyptian goddess of Heket. The third plague was gnats, tiny insects that were plaguing the Egyptians. Moses strikes the desert dust to unleash this plague of gnats, and it causes chaos in the desert. Well, this is because the Egyptian god Seth is the Egyptian god of chaos and the Egyptian god of the desert. So by unleashing gnats on the people, Yahweh is again exalting himself. The fourth plague is a plague of flies. I don't know about you, but it drives me crazy this time of year when my kids leave the door open and flies get in the house because they're everywhere. Well, take that times a billion and you've got the plague of flies. The Egyptian gods of Re and Uitchit were depicted as flies. And so again, Yahweh is laying claim over and above the Egyptian false gods. This leads us to the fifth plague. The fifth plague unleashed by Yahweh is death of livestock. So not only is Yahweh taking aim at the Egyptian economy, because if you killed a livestock, you are really striking a blow financially to Egypt, but he's also taking aim at the Egyptian gods of Hathor and Apis, who were the Egyptian protectors of cattle. Yahweh is showing that these Egyptian protectors have nothing on the God of the Bible. This brings us to the sixth plague against ancient Egypt, the plague of boils, a skin condition that struck. This is an affront to the Egyptian gods of health, which would be Sekhmet, Sunu, and Isis. The boils got so bad that they even covered the Pharaoh's magicians so that they were unable to respond. The next plague is the hailstorm. Oh, hell no. And that is Yahweh's attack on the Egyptian goddess of Nut, who was the sky goddess. Then you have the plague of locusts, and this plague is unleashed by Yahweh to exalt Yahweh over Osiris, who is the crop god, and Seth, who is also a storm god in Egyptian mythology. The next plague is the plague of darkness, and this went after the top dog of the Egyptian pantheon of gods. Re was the sun god, and the Pharaoh claimed to be receiving his power directly from Re, the sun god. And so you have darkness over the entire land. So Re has no power in the presence of Yahweh. And then finally, the 10th and most famous plague that we did touch on yesterday during the message is the death of all the firstborns of Egypt. This is where we get the Jewish festival of Passover. In Exodus chapter 12, verse 12, we are told that God, he says, I will pass through the land of Egypt on the night of the Passover, and I will strike down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am Yahweh. He says to take the lamb's blood. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. When I see the blood on the doorpost, the doorway entry to your home, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. And so this Passover shall be for you a memorial day. You shall keep it as a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations, as a statute forever. You shall keep it as a feast. So this final plague would mark the people of Israel with an annual feast to remember how they had their Last Supper, and then they quickly exited as execution befell the firstborns. And so God is leading Israel out of Egypt, and he doesn't take them through an easy route. God chooses to lead them out the hard way. Why? Well, so that when they are rescued, no one else can be attributed the rescue. Only Yahweh will get the glory. And so at this final plague, you have final judgment on Pharaoh's power, Pharaoh's government, and Pharaoh's house. Yahweh is exalting himself above the gods of Egypt. It's almost like he's detoxing his people who have been in 430 years of Egyptian culture. And now, out in the desert, Yahweh, through Moses, will shape his people. Because, again, Exodus is not merely an exit from Egypt. It is also God preparing a people to be a kingdom of priests. So there you go, the 10 plagues of Egypt and how they line up with Egyptian gods going toe-to-toe with Yahweh. I hope this has been helpful to you. You can get our daily reading through Exodus this week when you go to our website, lifechurchmichigan.com/Binge. Binge. Thanks so much for joining me for this bonus feature. I'll see you again soon with more bonus features as we binge through the Bible. This is John saying, enjoy your burrito.